Hi. We're starting the second part of the four-part seminars that we had here. Today's topic is Fashion Beyond Boundaries, Changing Global Landscapes. And we are extremely pleased to have a very incredibly impressive panel. I'll just introduce them to you. Mr. Farooq Hassan, President of BGMEA. Would you please come? Mr. Sam Alton, President of IF. Mr. Abhishek Agrawal, CEO Purple Style Labs. Mr. Shailesh Chaturvedi, Managing Director, Arvind Brands. Mr. Vineet Gautam, CEO of Bestsellers. And finally, please welcome our moderator, Mr. Harminder Saini. He is the Managing Director, Wazir Advisors Private Limited. So without any delay now, I hand over to our moderator. Sir?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Walika. Good morning.
Morning.
So I think I was told very first thing in this morning also that you're looking very serious and then I've been told to keep it more interesting, right, and make it a little bit more fun. So we'll try our best to do that, right? So first thing is the introductions have been made pretty brief. I'll take it a little bit more detailed that we have a very diverse panel here, right? We have Mr. Hassan, who is from BGMEA, and I think I'm looking most, I would say, eagerly to his presentation, because one thing for sure that I have been in the industry of garment manufacturing, exports, branding, and all of it for almost now. So I was 16 when I joined textile engineering, so I would say since then, so almost 37, 38 years. And I have been telling this story to a lot of people over years that when India crossed $1 billion worth of garment exports number, though that was a big number, I think it happened sometime in the 90s. So at that point of time, if you would have shown a sewing machine, a modern sewing machine to somebody in Bangladesh and asked them to guess what is it, so maybe they would have said it is a juicer, right? They didn't even know what a sewing machine is. And today, not today, for last so many years, Bangladesh has been so far ahead in terms of garment manufacturing and now in textile side of it. So it's a fantastic success story, which I think as Indians we can definitely learn from. So we are looking forward to your presentation, Mr. Hassan. We'll get to that soon. So Mr. Sam Alton, right? And so IF, my introduction to IF was way back in Maastricht. I went for one of the conferences there. Rahul Bhai also was there at that point of time. And I didn't even know about the federation at that point of time. What do they really do? And those one of those crazy times when one was so busy that you land up somewhere and then you figure it out where you have landed. After landing, you check the boarding pass. So I was living that kind of life. And at that conference, I realized that how IF has been able to bring in the global brands over years together in the fashion space, and the exchange of ideas and exchange of all those insights which was happening in that panel, that for me as that point of time was much younger, it was eye-opening, right? Because we were living in a sort of like living in our own well in India, and few brands were available in India, that how large one could be, and the Calvin Kleins of the world and the Xenia of the world. One got to learn about all those people. So Mr. Alton, welcome here. You have been with IF for a very long time and definitely would like to learn, and some insights about the Turkish market, which we were talking about earlier, which you really know very well. So we'll talk about that as well. So welcome to the panel. And so Shailesh being next, I think he only person probably who could claim that has been in the industry a little longer than I am. He can claim, but that's not true. That also I'll say. That is not true. Exactly. So I'd go back to my engineering college and claim it to be 37. So Shailesh, obviously, I think the Indian market, in terms of how it has evolved, he's seen it all. He's seen it all from the demand side of it, supply side of it, from almost every possible angle, right? So Shailesh, we will be very keenly looking forward to your views on the industry and how do we see it going forward, and look at that, right? And then Vineet, I'll come to you later because Monty is sitting right there. So Abhishek, So Abhishek is the guy I called him specifically, and it's the first panel discussion he's come into the industry, or anyone for that matter, right?
We are ragging for the first time.
Yeah. So that's the whole reason I called him here, to rag him. But the point is why I've called him, why I called him here is because over years I have seen that most of the industries have been disrupted by the people coming from outside, right? So that's why he thinks that I am a great friend of his. Actually, I'm keeping the enemy closer. Because he is going to disrupt it, and he's already disrupting it, right? So I have to keep a very close eye on him. So you are surprised, maybe Vineet or you, that you talk every day. Yes, I talk to him every day because I need to know what he is up to next. So just for the audience purpose, he runs a company called Purple Style Lab, which is into high fashion and premium brands. We can call it the designer world. So they have a few stores in India. They have their online business and growing very, very fast. And I think not only taking market share from other people, also creating the market by just making it available and managing all these designers and the premium and brands in a way it has never been done, right? And that's where I think, and more they are understanding about the market, he and his team. He looks very young, his team is even younger, right? So I'm really, really looking forward to, Abhishek, your views on this and reveal some, I would say, mysteries which we all should beware of, right? So we'll come to that. So Vineet, sir, why are you called sir? I don't know why it comes naturally, Vineet, sir, right? So Vineet, sir. So again, an outsider, right? Again, an outsider that who comes from the hospitality industry, came into the fashion industry, and today he tells me very casually that 2,300 crores we done last year. So he just said it and left it at that. And after that, I don't know whether he noticed or not, I was quite serious after that. Ki bol kya rahe ho bhai? Why are you, how are you doing it and where are you doing it? Right, but the point is that bringing in a bestseller kind of company in India. I think most of the bestseller brands in India, if one were to do a brand check among the consumer, I think they will not appear even in the top 20 European brands, right? There was no, people didn't know, right? And Jack and Jones, actually people thought that somebody should have thought of a better name sitting in Bombay, right? Or maybe I may have actually asked Prashant Agarwal who brought it, ki sir kuch Jack and Jill hi rakh lete, right? What is Jack and Jones? But then he told me, ki nahi, ye bahut bada brand hai, China mein itna bechte hai. And now today, I think some of the best known, these amongst the best known brands in India. And totally Vineet's doing, because from day one, he's managing the bestseller business in India. And I think it's a definite, one of the biggest success stories one can talk about. So this is the panel which you people have here. So I just wanted to make sure that we really know that who are the people on the panel and before we start talking about it. So the first, we'll start with Mr. Hasan, your presentation. And after that, we'll get into the discussion based on your presentation and few of the other interesting points. So please welcome to the dais.
Thank you, Arminda. Welcome to this session. I'm very happy to be here in Mumbai. In fact, I was here in 2020 in March when the COVID was just started, and after 2 years, again I'm back. So I'm very happy to be here with you guys again. Fellow panelists, we have here Sam, or I have President Mr. Shoilesh, Mr. Vineet, Abhishek, so and distinguished guests who are attending this seminar. Very good. It's still morning, yep. Yeah. Morning to everyone. And it is really an honor for me to take part of this conference, especially the theme of today's session, Fashion Beyond Boundaries, Changing Global Landscape, is a very relevant, and the excellent set of panelists will definitely interact valuable discussion. I want to thank Wazir Advisor and CMAI for organizing this important event and inviting me as a keynote speaker. If you see that in this slide, you are seeing the snapshot of the global apparel industry. Like all other sectors, COVID has affected the global fashion industry. The global apparel market faced a sharp decline of over 11% in 2020 in comparison with 2018, the pre-COVID. Almost all the apparel manufacturing countries face a decline in 2020 due to the impact of COVID-19. On one hand, many brands also got bankrupted and others closed hundreds of shops across the globe, which created a devastating scenario all over the supply chain. Even though the world faces catastrophic consequences due to the COVID-19, worldwide mass vaccination and caution steps taken by respective government have helped to settle down with the things, and currently it is resurging from the destructive past. In 2021, the global apparel market recovered by approximately 16% to reach $1.5 trillion and is expected to become approximately $2 trillion by 2025. Growing at a CAGR of 4% from 2019. Recurrence from COVID-19, building back stronger, is one of the key happening of 2021. Apart from that, the record high cotton price was another major event due to increased fuel price and geopolitical tension. Cotton price registered an unprecedented growth in 2021. Price of all other major fiber also increased in the range of between 30 to even 60% in 2021. All year long, the industry suffered an immensely global container shortage, resulting in unprecedented increase in vessel shipping costs. And last but not least, sustainability remained a key theme throughout the year. Eco-consciousness, functionality, durability, and easy care features are the things that customers are looking into the clothes currently. If you see that structural shift, continuing the trend in the coming days, there will be some structural shift which will reshape the future of global apparel supply industry. Synthetic fiber will gain more importance. Manufacturing landscape will be influenced by 3 C's: cost, competitiveness, and closeness. Industry 4.0 will be the key for achieving manufacturing and supply chain excellence. Fashion consumption will continue to evolve, driven by technology and innovation. Sustainability will be a strong pillar of future growth. This McKinsey report, I'm sure you have seen this report by this time in its recent published report, State of the Fashion 2022. McKinsey has predicted 10 critical themes for fashion industry: uneven recovery, logistic gridlock, domestic luxuries, wardrobe reboot, metaverse mindset, social shopping, circular textile, product passports, cyber resilience, and talent crunch. These are the 10 key themes predicted by McKinsey and Company for the global fashion industry in 2022. I personally believe that we belong to the manufacturing side. While all these are important for us, logistic gridlock, change in consumer taste, and circular textile will be a more important agenda for us in the coming years to deal with. If you see the post-COVID changes in global fashion, there are also some inevitable changes in the consumer's behavior that will happen in the post-COVID market. Like consumer will have adopted short-term behaviors during the pandemic. That is, many cases will become permanent, influenced by online shopping, garmophobia, in-homing, brand royalty, etc. A significant consolidation of retailers will fundamentally alter the competitive and partner landscape. Consumer will emerge from the pandemic in a new economic reality, which may cause decline in demand and impact on price, thus changing global buyers' behavior in profound ways. Non-cotton fiber, the fiber of new era. In this slide, you can see that how non-cotton, especially the man-made fiber, has been dominating the global market for a long time, and it will be continued in the coming days as well. If we look at the history of fiber demand growth over the year, a significant rise will be detected for other man-made fiber like polyester. In 1990, polyester demand was only 5.2 million tons globally, and by 2020, 2000, it had reached 19.2 million tons. Between the period of 1980 to 2014, polyester established a continuous dominance with 73.4% fiber demand growth out of 55.7 million tons. As you can see here, with 62.5% share, synthetic fiber was the most consumed fiber in 2018, followed by cotton with 25.3% share. The next in line was wood-based cellulose fiber with 6.3% share, other natural fibers with 4.8% share, and wool with only 1.10% share. Consumers are now routing the products which are easy to care, durable, and most importantly, functional for many occasions. As non-cotton fiber fulfill almost all this demand, we can easily say that this is the fiber of future. Since I'm representing Bangladesh, let me come back to say something on Bangladesh. Already Harminder have said that how Bangladesh is performing, and I believe Bangladesh will perform in future as well. If you see that the journey of RMG industry started in it was the late 70s, and in 40 years, Bangladesh has positioned itself as the second largest garment exporting country in the world, contributing immensely to our social economic growth and prosperity. The factors behind the success of this industry so far are quick learning workforce, dynamic entrepreneur, policy support by the government, and support from our valued buyers. From many buyers are representing in Bangladesh. This slide gives you an overview of the textile and garment industry in Bangladesh. We have around 3,500 active RMG factories in the country, which has created employment for around 4 million workers directly, and indirectly around 10 million people are working in various backward and forward linkage industry. It is important to note that around 2.5 million of our total workforce is female, who have mostly come from less privileged part of the society. Thus, the industry is helping them to be empowered socially and economically. The tag made in Bangladesh is being retailed in 167 countries across the globe. In terms of investment from direct and indirect link, this sector have generated more than $20 billion in investment. Green growth. Today, our clothing factories are not only safer, but also have become more dynamic, modern, energy efficient, and environment friendly. Bangladesh is the home of the most lead green factories in the world. We have now 160 green factories certified by USGBC, of which 48 are platinum, 98 are gold rated. You'll be amazed to know that 40 out of global top 100 lead factories are in Bangladesh. In fact, 7 out of top 10 factories in the world are in Bangladesh. It is also noteworthy to mention that around 500 factories are in pipeline to get the certification. These are the state-of-the-art factories equipped with to save energy and natural resources, having facilities like rainwater harvesting and daylight saving, and having healthy and hygienic atmosphere. So Bangladesh is showing its maximum commitment when it comes to sustainability. I also want to proudly share with you that BGME has been awarded with USGBC Leadership Award 2021, which is by far for the first of its kind for any trade association in Bangladesh. Since the RMG sector has made significant strides towards sustainability, BGME has published its own sustainability report based on GRI guideline. We are the only association in Bangladesh to publish such report and will regularly update this. Opportunities. Undoubtedly, we have come in a long way, but we are not commencement, and we believe that going forward, we have many opportunities ahead of us where we can tap into. This graph shows share of Bangladesh RMG global export as per WTO data of 2020. Bangladesh is the third largest apparel exporting country, holding 6.26% share of the global market. This share have been increased consistently in last 15 years from 2.47% in 2005 to 6.26 in 2020. As you know that in 2020, our industry was closed almost for 1.5 months, and that's why we were in third in 2020 as per the WTO data. 2021 data by WTO was not published yet, but hopefully in 2021 when the data will be published, our market share will be around 7 or maybe a little over 7%, and we are already regained the second position over Vietnam. So these are the opportunities to further penetrate into the global market, which requires a strategic approach and investment. Bangladesh is a new Asian tiger. You see that if you see the GDP growth, what we have now in a bigger growth vision, we want our neighbors countries, especially India, to be a partner in that journey. Yes, it is true that apparel manufacturing countries, there will be a competition among the producer, but we want to spread the message of competitive collaboration where we can partner in achieving our growth, because we believe that India have all the strength of starting from cotton and manufacturing of yarn, fabric, so we can collaborate together and definitely we can grow farther. If you see that Bangladesh here in which is getting ready with the mega project, the Padda Bridge, power plant, metro rail. In next few years, Bangladesh will have tremendous opportunities because there will be 100 economic zones that's being developed to create structural and balanced investment. If you see that the share of man-made fiber-based apparel in global trade and export, which I have discussed at the beginning, so there's a huge opportunity with India, because India is also getting a very strong in man-made fiber, especially in the area of Surat. Last month, I've sent a delegation of 11 manufacturers where in Surat. They have discussed that how we can collaborate each other, and with their support and with your support, we believe that we can grow together, because we know how to produce garments, and still we are enjoying the duty-free access to European market, and we will be enjoying the duty-free access hopefully till 2029. So we can buy a lot of fabric, yarn from India, and we can convert it to a garment and increase the export. So a single dollar export means that India is part of it, because you will have a contribution on that. As investment opportunities, you can see that again 75% export are concentrated in 5 core items, which I'm trying to say is that if you see that Bangladesh, though our export is close to over $40 billion right now, but still our core export is in 5 products: shirts, trousers, pullovers. But there are many other items where we can grow, and almost we discussed 74% of our products are based in cotton, so we should concentrate, and we have already started concentrating on non-cotton item. And again, in the value upward, because if you see that 65% of our exports are concentrated within $18 kg price tag, which means in the higher segment, there's a huge opportunity with that. So, and we can, which means this high-end product and technical upgradation, so design, development, innovation, end-to-end digital manufacturing. So together with India, we can grow further. And as I said that, we are going to collaborate together, because we should not do competition, we should collaborate each other so that we can take more market share in the Western world. So that's the big advantage. And if you go that in the Bangladesh and India bilateral trade, I'm not going for the detailed figure on that. I will send my presentation to the organizers so they can share this presentation with you, so you can get this data out of that. I'm not going to discuss in details. And if you see this, what are the textile articles we import from the world and from India? Here's some statistics here, which will be, again, I'm going to share this information. And what Bangladesh's major apparel item exported to India is also in this slide. So you will see that 81% is within this 5 items. And the collaboration for global leadership, so we can have this regional value creation and growth. We have a research, innovation, and exchange of knowledge, market diversification, and from CM2 base to manufacturing, retailing. I will say that this Bangladesh, you know that Bangladesh is graduating from LDC to developing country. So from 2026, finally we will graduate. And so this is a challenge we have, but again, we had a huge opportunity to go farther on that. So I will here the initiative to enhance trade capacity, that India-Bangladesh trade portal launch. Chittagong port has been redeveloped to increase the cargo handling capacity with deeper depth. Infrastructure at the land customs port are improving. New rail line between Bangladesh and India. You know that from India, we have some infrastructure problem in the Bangladesh side, but right now there are many initiatives have been taken in the Benapole, and there will be some more border port are opening. So we should take the advantage of this. So the customs clearance and import-export simplification work is going on. So hopefully you will see a big changes in 2022. I will not going to inform about the Indian market, apparel market, because you know better than me, so that I'm not discussing details on that. But we have the opportunities ahead. So Bangladesh is doing, last 1 year, Bangladesh is doing very good. If you see that the growth what we have, you can see that even in March, we had a growth of 60%. In February, we had a growth of 33%. In January, 42%. So both in USA, we are doing a tremendous growth, as well as the other market. So thank you very much for your understanding. And I can assure you that I believe, and from BGMA, we believe that with India we like to collaborate. Instead of competing each other, we should complement each other, and we can grow together because you have strength of in the spinning, in the weaving, and all this area, and we have strength in apparel manufacturing. So together, and with the R&D, design development, we can grow farther and we can take more Western world market. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hassan. Thanks for I think, sharing all these details about Bangladesh. One thing which I liked about was that even at almost $35–40 billion of exports, you're still calling it a greenfield opportunity, right? So that's very interesting because ambition-wise, if you look at it, and I think the pie chart answers that even at the second position, how much smaller the business still as compared to China, the kind of opportunity which lies there, I think that's together we should be paying more attention to that. Thank you. So, Mr. Alton, I'll come to you, and what I wanted to hear from you was that the view from the International Apparel Federation's point of view, that how the world is looking like in terms of the demand side, consumption side, on the supply side of it. And we exchange notes on that how this whole sustainability and the circular economy, that's what are the driving themes. And less from, I would say, this part of the world, more from that part of the world, Europe and the larger Western world. I think we have seen trends coming in fashion, we've seen trends coming in more fast fashion came in, and then we have seen cheaper and better looking clothing coming in, and now this in the last 2-3 years or more, we have started talking about all this fashion being the bad boy of towards the environment. So I think you're not clearly, I could see that you feel very passionately about that. So I would like to hear your views on that part, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank Clothing Manufacturers Association India for inviting me here, and I appreciated that. Before that, let me briefly, if you allow me, explain what International Apparel Federation is about, because probably some people knows and some people doesn't know. And International Apparel Federation has been established 50 years ago. This year in Dhaka, we will celebrate our 50th year, and it has been established by Japanese, American, and German manufacturers. And after that, until now, 42 countries has been a member of International Apparel Federation, and we represent more than 20 million workers, more than 100,000 companies. So it's a big federation, and our task is to be a bridge between the manufacturers and the brands. And our members are from associations of the countries and from manufacturers, from intermediators of the industry. So we cover quite a big part of the international apparel industry. And what we do education. We educate our members by webinars and seminars, and we talk about our problems, what we can do all together to overcome these problems, and of course how we can make our industry more sustainable, more greener. And as you know, this is the biggest issue at the moment. We have to all adjust ourselves, like making a revolution in our industry to make our industry cleaner. Because as you know, everybody says that the textile and apparel industry is one of the most populated industry So we have to get rid of this image, and we have to do this by collaborating each country, like Bangladesh in India, but also Turkey, Europe, States, and China. We have to do it all together. So this is what really we try to do in our association. And of course, your past president, Mr. Rahul Mehta, also has been my past president in IIF. So he supported me as well for my presidency as well. I also thank him for that. To come to your question, of course, we are in big revolution in our industry, and of course, COVID-19 has affected mostly, and just before the COVID-19, our industry has been talking about the social responsibilities of each production countries, and everybody concentrated how we can make our industry better place to work. But also the sustainability about recycling and upcycling and reducing carbon footprint has been the subject, but COVID-19 has increased all this. And in early centuries, the production has been in United States, in Europe, but after 70s and 80s, everything became so expensive there, and garment production started shifting to east, and of course started with near shores like Turkey, and then moved to China, India, Bangladesh, Vietnam. And I remember when I was in 80s, when I started my business, an American buyer used to come to Turkey, and for 5 cents, for 10 cents, used to travel to India, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, and then come back again. But these days are, I think, over now. People are looking for more sustainable countries, more social responsibilities they are looking for, and because of that, really we all have to work together, and the shifting of the industry has been bringing a lot of wealth to the Asian manufacturing hubs as well. And Turkey has started with very cheap production, and then people became wealthier there, and then now we became more expensive, and of course after that the production shift to Southeast Asia, India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and now they are also, as Mr. Hassan mentioned, growing their industry, and of course workers there are becoming more and more wealthy and living in better conditions, which is we all need to do. And of course the situation with the developing countries at the moment, the problem with China has shifted the production to other countries like Bangladesh, India, Pakistan has been one of the biggest partners to the share of this production, and some to Turkey because of the nearshoring, and because of the COVID, people doesn't want to put really everything in one basket, so they want to really spread their risks. So our countries became, of course, more important for that. But of course, for this also reaching the raw materials are very important. So for Turkey, for example, we produce everything there. We are one of the biggest cotton producer. We have accessories. We reach very quickly to new technologies. and also very close, and we have the design power as well. So we use that advantage. And like we have, India also have the same advantage. China, of course, has the biggest advantage for that. But of course, the new situation with the prices going high, and they also shift their production to Southeast Asia and to become more competitive. And of course, the things affecting developing countries also their free trade engagements, and free trade engagement gives them to share export and import profits. Of course, we do some things cheaper and make United States or European countries spend more things on other things than the cheap, but then of course they sell us more expensive things, so we have to really balance that import-export with free trading. And in our industry, I think at the moment we need this revolution about the greening of the industry, because as you know, European Union, most of us exporting to European Union, our market, 70% of our market in Turkey is to European Union. I don't know how many percent for Bangladesh and India, but from 2030 it will affect all of us because they have put a lot of new legislations, and these legislations will affect all our export and also our way of production. And we have to really work all together to reduce our carbon footprint, so we don't pay any high taxes. So they allow us to export to the European Union. And of course, in 2050, they are trying to bring this to zero. So really, we have to work really hard and hope that new legislations taken in every country, we can achieve this. But of course, producers like us cannot do this alone. We need really government support for that, because our industry has been made of SMEs, and SMEs really lack of big financing. So the government really need to help these to approach greening of the industry. So really at the moment I'd like to stop here, so maybe later my friends have some additional things.
Thank you. No, I had a leading question, because you asked part of your speech when you was talking about this cost of, because this greening sounds very good, sustainability, and we want to reduce all of that, but there's a cost related to it. So since, like you said, you are a bridge between the apparel brands and the manufacturers, and are you hearing from your members who are actual buyers of it, are they willing to bear any cost of it? Because they're just putting the pressure on the manufacturing side, because most of our audience is from the manufacturing side of it, and they see that the pressure keeps coming, you have to do this, do this, do this, and all of that. But at the same time, can you give me price lower than the lowest as of this moment?
Well, I'm afraid they don't want to pay anything extra. They keep demanding. Well, before they used to demand for, of course, better conditions, which really, it's all our responsibility to look after our workers and make them safe place to work. Sure. This is okay. We have to spend that. This is our must. But there is one problem, audit fatigue. And all company we work, probably same in your countries as well, asking for different audit companies to audit your company, which gives you huge expenses and also time-consuming things. You know, when auditor comes to factory, all your production stops. So, as an international apparel federation, we are also trying to work out how can we stop this audit fatigue, and we are talking with the groups like H&M and Inditex, so we can take these behind us, and only we can have one rule for everybody, and that rule goes for each brand, and we can reduce this audit fatigue. Right. This is very important, and of course now sustainability became an issue, and they all want now greener factories to be able to compete. I think from now on, I congratulate Mr. Hassan, what they do in Bangladesh, you know, greening the factories. It's tremendous achievement in short term, and I hope in Turkey we do the same as well, because we are really lagging back behind, and this is very important. And of course, these things has to be done all together, from consumer to producer, from producer to government. We all have responsibilities, and of course digitalization is very important as well. By digitalization we can reduce the cost, and we can do more effective for productive production to bring the cost down. And but to your question, customer, they would like to pay extra for anything. Right, we need to find the money. So we need to really reduce our costs.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can pass on the mic, Vineet. So Vineet, we will come to now, let's say from the international side, which we have talked about, and coming to the Indian side. Before we go there, you are sitting here in between, the bestseller, one of the largest apparel fashion brands company in the world, a group in the world, and you being part of the senior management at the global level. So can you please share with us the view on from the demand as well as on the supply chain side of it? You were just now this audit fatigue which he talked about. Without using the term, I think you spent half the morning talking about that only. That what's going on and how difficult it is for you to find suppliers in India. So just give us an overview from that side.
Yeah, thank you. I think I completely relate to what both of them said, and I think must congratulate the Bangladesh Association. I think they've done a fantastic job. It becoming this sourcing hub of the world. I think very, very quickly they have done that. See, from a global business perspective and brands perspective, you're right, we're in the middle of it. But I'll start from the consumer, and I'll think then go down the value chain, because I think there is demand, and we are seeing far higher demand post-COVID than pre-COVID, and that's happening not only in India. I think we're seeing it across the globe, whether it's Europe or US. We're seeing high demands. Whether the customer is ready to pay for sustainability today, answer is a complete no. They want it. It's very, very clear. But I think this is going to take a bit of a while to get sorted and settle. While I think a lot of this is expectation from the brands, and our expectation in turn goes to the supply chain, because brands, we are at the middle of this between the consumer and the supply chain. Okay, so whatever, and I understand from what he said that there's so much demand, but that's what the consumer is talking about, right? Today, if you are part of the stories of what consumers are saying, sustainability at the forefront of the discussion, but consumers do appreciate it, but they don't want to pay for it. So hence, taking the price up is a challenge. So I think not only from their perspective, we as retailers and brands have also re-experiment and re-look at our entire supply chain and see how we can manage our costs. Because some part of the cost we will also have to manage, because everything is not going to go down the line, and I think new technologies will emerge over time. The challenge majorly that I am seeing overall, the kind of demand that's coming, that earlier there was demand coming from one part of the world. Currently the demand is coming from all parts of the world. And the supply chain overnight has not increased. Actually, it's decreased. With China's major challenges that are emerging with lockdowns and the other challenges that they're having, and now Sri Lanka shut with no power, I think it's very little that there are places that you can produce. And all retailers or brands are wanting to go to the same factories. In fact, I was talking to him before in the morning that the prices are inflating so much that you will actually end of the day have to pass this to the consumer, and the consumer doesn't want to pay for it. So end of the day, we'll have to find this balance between demand, supply, what is the right price. I think fast fashion, you spoke about this, and now we talk about ultra fast fashion with Shein, $100 billion valuation beating both H&M, Inditex combined. I think the world around us is changing, and I think some part of that, I don't know whether the consumer wants it also or not. I think we are overfeeding this, and I think then it becomes the expectation of a consumer, and then we are not able to fulfill it. So I think as retailers, brand, we'll also introspect of what is really required, what is not required. Plus, I think the amount of manufacturing that is happening and the amount of wastage that is happening post is something which is really concerning. So like bestseller, we've taken a pledge on sustainability. We call it the fashion forward pledge, and I think we have set goals and we are trying to achieve the goals much ahead of time. In fact, as we speak, we produce in a solar farm in Denmark the entire electricity we consume across the globe. So we put a solar farm in Denmark. We delivered it a year ahead of schedule, despite COVID. So we have taken those goals because we believe that we'll have to finally do this, and not for business or a consumer or PR. Especially as bestseller, we don't PR all this. We do it because we solely believe in the purpose of doing this. But I think we'll have to work more collaboratively, especially in these times where looking at the cotton prices, just sourcing garments is becoming very, very expensive, and hence I think a lot on this new fiber, man-made fiber, where prices can be brought down. Some cooling off is required because these inflationary pressures are not good for business, both sides, whether it's brand side or the manufacturing, because end of the day, it's going to hurt demand. And I think the demand in the last 2 years post-COVID is a very beautiful space we are in. I think the least discounted we are. I think I can only speak from the India perspective on that. I think we are the lowest ever discounts in fashion retail in the last 10 years, Shailesh. I don't remember this times ever. And there is demand. We are seeing that very, very clearly. So I think we'll have to very quickly fix our supply chain and work with factories on it. While I'll touch upon this audit fatigue, and I think I like the idea of few big retailers coming together and setting up a benchmark, saying this is the minimum the factories need to do. And then obviously some brands will want a little bit up and some brands will want a little bit down, and figuring out how that is to be done. Because today there are so many levels of audits that are happening. There are multiple companies doing audit and each of their level is different. So I think it's good for the brands also, because end of the day, audit itself is a large cost. It takes a large amount of time for brand like us. We work with very, very highly code of approved factories. So compliance is a very large cost for us also. So I think we'll have to find all these elements, make the business a little more simpler. I think over the years we've complicated the business a little bit. So this is what I think from an international brand perspective.
No, one of the points, Vineet, I think we were discussing about, and we are talking here at CMAI, where all the manufacturers are the members, that talking about these factories which are dedicated factories, 100% dedicated to a single brand, single product, and whether you say it seriously or half seriously, that you are willing to underwrite those kind of capacities for years because you are finding that you need to ensure your supply. So any further details share with the audience on that?
I think it works both sides. If you look at if you are a manufacturer today, you need to have a big marketing team. You need to have multiple design teams working for different brands, going and setting the capacity. It's finally cost, right? End of the day, if you can work with one or two retailers, brands, I think the cost overall leverages. For us also, it's better to invest in partnerships where we're doing so. From a bestseller perspective, globally also we work very strategically with factories. So if we are not the largest in that factory, we'll rather move out and do something else with someone else. Because strategy is so important that someone understands the brand, the ethos, and that's working is much more seamless. And a large part of our organizations also depend on factories for design input. So it's very difficult then to find synergy. So we work with a lot of factories in India which are almost exclusively ours, and we don't mind doing that for a longer period of time.
Fantastic. So one thing we have been saying, consumer doesn't want to pay, but it looks like the cheaper you sell your clothing, the better price they are willing to pay for your shares, right? So whether it was, I think Zara recently when he became the richest man, and now the Shein crossing $100 billion. I think no fashion company has been $100 billion worth ever in the history.
Valuation and true businesses are two different things.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying the same consumer. He doesn't want to pay for the shirt, wants to pay for the stock, right? So that's okay. Somewhere they are paying. Shailesh, I wanted to come to you. He's the last on my this thing. No, he's last. I'm coming to you.
Yeah, I'll have similar views then.
No, not similar, not similar. I'll tell you how different you are from him. Right? And that's where I ask you view on that. So that's how I thought about it. That so Vineet, obviously, like I said, that he brought in absolutely unknown brands into India, himself being an outsider, and how that business has been built. You are a hardcore, you are definitely an insider, right? And you have been in the industry from the very start of your career, and many brands, not only Indian brands, international brands you have built over the years. So I think everybody in the audience definitely would like to hear from you that how do you see this and see where it's come from or where it is headed from all these angles, consumption side, demand side, and then some of the things which you are talking about are the challenges which brands are facing globally. Because one thing I for sure, Shailesh, believe that most of the brands internationally, whether it's the American or European brands, they have grown over decades, right? In India, we are covering those decades in years, right? We are moving very, very fast on that. The challenge which they had to face maybe in the 50th or 60th of year of their existence, we are facing in the 10th and 15th. So I think that's where I think we are on one side, we have great opportunity, but huge challenges also. This audit, we are talking about audit fatigue. I think we are just getting into that. Because the scale which Indian brands are reaching now, they can't avoid it. Because so far, it was all you can buy from anywhere. So I'm just leaving it very open to you, Shailesh. Want to hear your complete overview on that.
Sure, Harminder. I've been working in this industry since '92 when I passed off of my MBA and joined a British multinational company called Madura Coats. That company was in India for 200 years. We built brands like Louis Philippe. I used to be the brand manager for Louis Philippe for many years, Van Heusen and Allen Solly, etc. And then I left India to move to Hong Kong with Benetton. I worked there less than 2 years in Asia Pac with Benetton and came back 2006. Was part of the startup on a brand called Tommy Hilfiger. I've been running Tommy Hilfiger in India for this is my 16th year going, and then CK happened. It's a part of the same parent company. And then a year back, I sort of was given the charge of the larger business of Arvind. So we run brand like US Polo, Arrow, Flying Machine, Aeropostale, Sephora. We have our own website, now.com. We are fairly large on digital. We do 1,000 crore profitable digital business in India in this company. So there's a whole gamut of things. So I would just briefly touch upon, we have seen how industry has evolved from almost unorganized to organized. So today also the largest growth is at the bottom of the pyramid, when a person buying unorganized, no disrespect, but let's say an auto rickshaw driver, and I was in a format last month in Calcutta. There I saw a lot of actually brown color dress, an auto rickshaw guy in the break coming inside, or a maid, shopping. That's a first level of shopping where somebody would have bought from the road, footpath, and then moved to a box, a building. So when it's raining, you're still inside, you're protected from sunlight, from dust, you're protected. So that's the first level where India, when it's $100 billion Indian market, and there's a 90% unorganized and rest 10% organized, and that 10% is becoming bigger because there is an upgradation through physical stores like what I was talking about, also online world, which is really Mishos of the world, very sharp price, growing. So that is one of the largest hotspot in India, from unorganized to organized at a very sharp price, 200, 300 rupees, MRP garments. And then there are a little more sophisticated version of that. Then the brand play happen, department stores happen. Then, there are international brand like the Vineet Rans or Iran, Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein, slightly higher price. And then there are luxury, which, Abhishek does Indian designer luxury, and there is this whole pyramid. And as you go up, the size reduces, but there is a growth happening across the channel. that's one level where India is sort of moving. Second level has been on the channel level. So we have seen when department stores started, Shopper Stop started. I was in Madura Garment. We used to train the people of Madura, of Shopper Stop, and then lifestyle came, and we saw how, you know, the department store, because in most of the high street there's no car park. And Bangalore Brigade Road we went, there was or in Bangalore, in Bombay, let's say, Andheri, Shopper Stop came. In and around there was no car park. And then Shopper Stop said, I'll give you a car park, you know, and then Lifestyle came and saying, I'll give you a car park. Then people started going to department store because there's a genuine advantage of parking the car or getting all the brands together. And then we saw the malling happen where every brand got their own car park in a way, because, you know, then that car park was not for department store, for our own brand. So we started opening our own stores of Tommy Hilfiger or Calvin Klein in the malls. From High Street we moved, and then we saw a start of the online world slowly, largely as a discount channel, which still is very large value seeking, but now convenience is coming into play and people are now offering value added. Then the omni linkages have started to happen there, and now only online brands, the D2C brands have said. So even in online space also, the, you know, the sort of fine tuning or the, you know, the shades of gray emerging, and, you know, that business is growing well at omni level, at D2C level, at smaller tier delivery, local delivery, hyper local delivery, fast delivery, you know, all those things are coming up in the online world. So there is a lot of action happening and the industry is moving forward. Where is it heading? I think, you know, what I'm seeing is the younger consumers have a lot of energy. So what was earlier millennial consumers, now the Gen Z next level, which are even younger. My son is 21, so he's a Gen Z, and, you know, the way he looks at the clothes, very different than I would look at my clothes, or the way they look at logos or colors. And a lot of them don't want very bright colors or large logos or whatever, you know, at one end, and then at a luxury end, you know, there's a Gucciization, large logo, large prints also happening at the same time. So there's, I think, at a consumer level, Generation Z, Gen Z is quite important, the youngsters, and, you know, with whole startup energy, people are getting jobs younger. They're making, like Abhishek, a lot of people are making money earlier. So there is an energy, and I think as an industry, we have to, you know, focus a lot more on the Gen Z consumers, because this also is they're also on the negative side called as the scarred generation. Because today, a guy in a small town in Murshidabad near West Bengal has a small mobile phone. He knows what's happening in the world. So on the Google, you know exactly what the Oscar, when Will Smith slapped Rock, everybody saw on their mobile phone next day morning, and they know what, you know, the actresses are wearing gowns. Earlier, for us, Oscar ceremony used to stay up late night and then watch. Today, young generation have on a mobile, they can see everything, you know, almost real time. So there is access to information, knowledge. But then point is, it's not available in India. I mean, there's a lot of frustration in most parts of whether Bangladesh or Turkey or India and many, many emerging developing countries and developed countries where, so that this generation is not as scarred, because they know what to consume or what to get, but it's not available, it's not within their reach. So it's somewhere, there's an impatience, there is a, you know, the desire to do something fast and be you know, become somebody, you know, known on their social media. So there's a whole, the Gen Z psyche is happening, and there is a, brands have to sort of cater to that psyche and move. So, you know, I see that this industry in a way is blessed that and I've seen in 30 years, every 5 years the rule change, you have to learn something new. So nobody can say, in fact, today somebody like me is a liability because I have 30 years of bad experiences, and somebody younger coming will have a much better, you know, sense of how to service a Gen Z consumer rather than I would have. So the industry is evolving every, you know, couple of years, and then there is a lot of new learning required, and that's what excites us also, that, you know, that's why I always believe that in most industries, especially in our industry, you need experts. It's not a generalist that you worked in FMCG, come and try the learnings here. It doesn't work, because people who have spent 30 years are also liability. Forget about somebody coming from other industry trying to, you know, use that. So we need experts. We need deep category industry expertise and understand what happens. And then even for those experts, every 5 years we have to learn new things on channel, on consumers, on technology, on audit, on social responsibility. The world is changing at a very, very fast pace right now.
Thanks, Shailesh. So one of the things you said that they can read it next morning, right? And these young ones don't wait till the morning. They see it there and then, whether it's 2 a.m. So, and most of the things in India, generally we have seen on WhatsApp, definitely anything which is nice poetry is always attributed to Gulzar. Gulzar must have said it. He may or may not have said it. Same way, no, Gulzar gets it in India without any doubt, number one. On the other side, anything witty, normally we end up giving it to Mark Twain. So I will also give it to Mark Twain. I'm not sure whether he said it or not. That fashion is so bad that you have to change it every day. Right? So that's the good thing or that's the bad thing about the fashion, that you have to continuously go on changing. You have to dump it what you created yesterday, and I think that's the bane of the industry, and primarily that's the reason most of the people. Otherwise, you could have been brand manager for Hajmola, right? And the whole life you would have spent, you are an MBA, you could have done that. So Abhishek, coming to you. So while we have been talking about these brands and everything, when we talk about whether it's in manufacturing in Bangladesh from IF point of view, most of the time what we are talking about is modern clothing, which all of us are wearing. But in India, we have a market which is to do with, we call it the ethnic wear to Indian wear, which we may call it, right? And that's the market which has two extremes. On one side, the Indian wear is worn by the people who are absolutely at the bottom of the pyramid, and then across the spectrum you go, and finally it becomes, I call it like a circle of fashion. You start with the cheapest, and then you reach the most expensive designer wear we talk about. So Abhishek, in 2001, I did the first ever study for designer wear world in India. And the total number which I came up with was 155 crores, which is like $20 million, the total market size for Fashion Design Council of India. I did the study. And $20 million. And that 155, every time I say this number, I have to say this, that I still feel guilty about it, and how much I pushed into it. It was not that much. We just had to make it cross that number. So we put, I don't know what all into it. And I think next quarter you will do 20 million. Yeah. So as one single company, they will be doing 20 million worth of sale of designer wear in the next 3 months for sure. So that's how far the market has evolved and has become, and I think continuing to grow. So Abhishek, coming to this particular market which we are talking about, that, so again, like I left it for Shailesh, because people would like to know that how did you think about it, how you stumbled into this market, and how you see and what you see going forward, that where it is headed. And it's not only Indian market, you are serving international market, almost half of your business is coming from the international market. So feel free to talk about it in whichever way you want to. Thank you.
Sure, Arvind. So I have nothing to do with fashion. I'm an aerospace engineer from IIT Bombay. I'm in the 7th year into the industry. So, it's not even a decade. I was a banker with Deutsche, pure numbers guy. I was just intrigued by, couple of luxury houses in 2015 and how they built themselves. So one of them was LVMH, other is Kering. So these guys never built anything. I mean, they bought, LVMH started with buying Dior, then they took a majority in LVMH, and they kept buying one brand year after year and became the largest luxury house today with almost 70 billion of turnover. Same way, Kering started with buying Gucci and then kept buying a few brands more in their journey. So what I realized just as a consumer back then, 7 years ago, is that in India, we have built a lot of brand equity. I mean, there are a lot of designers. If I just throw the names on you, whether you have bought them, whether you have seen their store or not, you would still have a brand recall value. But whether it's Rohit Bal or let's say Manish Malhotra. Manish Malhotra is still a lot more famous because of the Bollywood. But even other brands like Tarun Tahiliani, Rohit Bal, it would ring a bell for a lot of you, even though you might not have bought the products. So that's the kind of brand equity these people had built over last 2-3 decades. But none of them have even like $10-20 million of business. So that was something that was attractive for me when I started the company. And I thought it might be a very good time to, build India's LVMH. So when I started Purple Style Labs, that was like a 1-point, simple vision that I had. Now, neither I'm Bernard Arnault, who can leverage $1 billion, nor there was a Christian Dior deal on table. So how do you start? So I started very simple. I used to help small designers grow their business. But what changed is when we bought this platform called Pernier's Pop-Up Shop, which is 90% of our business today. So we are today the largest multi-designer online offline channel. We serve the premium luxury consumer across the world. 75% of our online sales come from the international market, 50% being US alone. And our average order value is almost 30,000 rupees, which is $400, and this is just online. Now, this is like 15 times higher than a Nykaa or a Myntra or any other platform which is equivalent out there. So sometimes people find it very surprising. How can somebody buy a 30,000 rupee product online? But that is what it is. And when we bought Pernia, I think it was on $1 million run rate. Now we are on 70 million run rate, including online and offline. So there was enough demand out there. It was just that nobody ever, took the effort to go and serve the demand. And even the supply existed. You just had to connect the two. The only difference was we did not build the platform. We picked a platform which had built some brand equity over a few years, and then we just grew it. I think what people sometimes miss when you cater to this demand globally, fashion is very quickly linked to clothing as a category. Whereas fashion as a word is much, much bigger than that. I mean, it's the business of brands. So if you ever see how the luxury brands have evolved themselves in the last 20 years, they are not just stuck to clothing. So if you look at the mass side, I think fashion would be almost 80% clothing as a category. Globally, fashion in luxury, only 25% clothing is the category. That's it. So out of 300 billion, only 75 billion comes from clothing. So what the brands have done, they know the consumer. They know the consumer is liking the product. They like the brand. They like the ethos. They like the story. They use clothing as the primary category through the ramp to build, that relationship. And then they sell you everything. I mean, I was in Dubai 2 weeks ago, and I actually saw a Dior airport case, which was for $1,000. So for a $300 an AirPod, you have a $1,000 case. So that is how luxury ended up serving the consumer, where you have high margins. I mean, clothing would be the worst category, for a retailer. I mean, so from an inventory perspective, everything, nobody likes, operating in clothing as a category, but you have to. But at the same time, because you need to chase your bottom line, which was one of the agendas, you have high cost increase in, etc., etc. So at least in the luxury side, what people have done, they have translated their businesses for the consumer, moved away just from clothing, expanded into multiple accessories, categories, and etc. And that is how they have built their businesses globally. Even today, what we do is unfortunately 80% clothing, because a lot of these are bought for weddings, occasion wear. But what we are very clear that because we are Indian brands taking them global, I mean, we also have a London store, we are opening New York and Dubai later this year, we are not going to be restricted to clothing. We know that we can leverage these brand equities built out of India, make them global brands, and wherever we have our strength in manufacturing as a country, it can be used to translate them into brands and the products and sold to the global consumers. I think probably currently we would be doing 200 crore of exports directly to the consumer, and hopefully by 2025, we will like to do 1,000 crore export directly to the consumer, which will be pretty new for India as a country. So that is what I think we are doing at a global scale.
Great. So Vijay, one question on the supply side of it, that now this market, like Shailesh also mentioned about unorganized getting organized. So while you said there was demand and there was supply side, but it needs organizing the whole thing. So where do you see opportunity in that from manufacturing point of view?
So I think, supply is the challenge, because unlike a lot of other global brands or even Indian brands which are operating on the mass side, because of the sheer scale, you start sorting out your supply very quickly. You get it manufactured through manufacturers. It is not in-house manufacturing for a lot of people. Unfortunately, in the premium luxury side, because it's designers on our side of the supply, they are doing it still on their own. And on top of that, they're not looking at aggressive growth, so they don't go and solve the manufacturing problem very quickly. So even though we are looking to scale the business fast, but we get generally bottlenecked by the whole, the supply side of it. So when we bought the platform, it was, let's say, 10 crore just for rounding of purpose. So we realized that from growing from 10 to 100 was very easy. Probably 100 to 1000 also will be easy just because we sell 700 brands. But we are going to be facing a challenge when we look to grow from 1000 crores to 5000 crores. Because then the designer's inability to increase the production will come and bite back. So, we solve the problem by just going and, backing the designers by investing. Our first investment was in House of Masaba, which was recently bought by Aditya Birla. And what we plan to do whenever we do our next round, we'll just be making investments in 15 to 20 designer brands, where we'll ensure that they use the capital to improve their, manufacturing scaling ability. I mean, you can go and improve the manufacturing ability once, you can make it 2x, but our problem doesn't end there. You need to make the 2x, 4x, 8x as we grow fast. So I think broadly as a luxury house, we are ensuring that the designers solve it. I mean, we're not leaving it onto them. So we'll be folding our sleeves and working with them to ensure that the production also gets ramped up.
Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think we are out of time. I have been indicated. But can we take any questions? Or do we have time for that or no? Or are there any questions? No. So, no, we concluded there are no questions very quickly. So, when we go with it, we have. So, thank you very once again.
Thank you very much for the very scintillating discussion that happened. Now, may I ask, we have mementos to give to our panelists, and may I ask Mr. Naveen Senani, a chairman, FEB Show Committee, to please give the memento to Mr. Farooq Hassan.
Thank you.
Farooq.
Sir, please come.
Thank you.
Naveen sir will give to Mr. Shailesh Chaturvedi. May I request Mr. Vikas is there? May I request Mr. Rajesh Masan, the President CMAI, to please give mementos. Mr. Sam Alton. Rajesh bhai, to Vineet Gautam. Prakash. May I request Mr. Bejan? Prakash bhai. Prakash bhai aate हैं. तो Abhishek Agrawal, Mr. Prakash will be giving.
Excuse me, sir, please. Come in middle.
And Arminder Saini sir, our moderator. Prakash bhai. Yeah. नहीं Prakash bhai है.
Sir, please.